Welcome to Puzzle Creek Outdoor. Today we're going to talk a little bit about cold weather camping and some reasons to do it and what gear you're going to need to make your experience in the woods more enjoyable. Now the positives to doing cold weather camping is you're not going to have to fight for space at a campsite because most people don't cold weather camp. You also don't have to worry about mosquitoes, you don't have to worry about snakes, so you got a lot of advantages of doing a cold weather camp. Now some of the disadvantages is it's cold. So your gear and clothing are very important in cold weather conditions. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the clothing that you're going to need, some new technologies that have come out to make your cold weather camping a better experience, and we'll talk about some gear, and I got a couple little tips at the end I'll share. First thing is, let's talk a little bit about clothing. What you want to do with clothing is you want to layer, because what's going to happen is if you're hiking during the day, you're going to warm up some, so you need to be able to take layers off, okay? So you don't want just that one big jacket on and you heat up, you take it off, well now you're cold. So you want to layer. So with layers, let's talk a little bit about your base layer. First thing is, depending on the temperature, you want to start out with a base layer. So here is a base layer from Marmot, okay? This is a Polartec fleece base layer, and you can do tops and bottoms with this. You want a base layer that's going to wick moisture, because sweating when it's cold is your enemy, because when you stop, if your clothes get damp, you're going to feel even colder because you're going to get a big chill. If your clothing effectively wicks moisture away from you, you're going to stay drier, therefore you'll stay warmer. Okay, so base layer is your first thing. Then you want to follow that up with another shirt, maybe a mid-weight jacket, something like this, and then a shell on over top of that, because then that's going to give you items that you can take off and then put back on, depending whether you're hiking or if you're sitting around the fire that night. Okay, a couple of other things we can talk about is jackets. They've got some great new technology that have come out in jackets. So if we take a look at this jacket from Columbia, it's a nice windproof jacket, but what they've added with this jacket is what we call Omni-Heat. So it looks a little space age, got these little dots, and what the dots do, they reflect your body heat back to you. So what's nice about that, it will keep you 20% warmer without adding bulk to the jacket. So it's a great alternative that you can use to help keep you warmer. You can also do a jacket which is a nice, been around for a long time, a nice down jacket. Okay, so it's got down inside. Great thing about a down jacket is they'll pack up into nothing. So you can take this jacket, really smash it down. So down makes a great jacket that you can really compress, throw in your pack, so when it gets really cold at night, you can pull it out while you're sitting around the campfire. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about footwear. Your extremities are very important to keep warm. So we'll start with some socks. So nice thing there is to start with just a nice merino wool sock. So this is one from Darn Tough, Smart Wool. There's a ton of companies out there that make wool socks. The nice thing about wool is it will naturally wick moisture from your feet, and it's naturally antimicrobial. So if it's really cold, what you might want to do is add a base sock to this, or a liner, and then put this on over. It gives you another layer of protection, another layer of warmth. You also want to make sure you keep your feet dry, especially in cold weather. So choose a boot that's going to have a waterproof membrane. So there's a couple different waterproof membranes out there. The best one known is Gore-Tex. This is a newer one, uses E-Vent. Both are going to be waterproof and both are breathable. So definitely something you want to take a look at, something to keep your feet dry, plus again, wick moisture from your feet. A couple more things about clothing, and we'll get back to the extremities, is your hands. If you're like me, cold weather, my fingers stay cold. So a couple options there. You can do something that is a Polartec fleece, a little bit thinner glove. Okay, so something like this makes a great outer glove, or if it's really cold, this could be a liner. You put a bigger glove on over it. Okay, so you're definitely important to keep your feet and your hands warm, because as temperatures fall, your extremities typically are the first ones to get cold. The other thing is, and the old adage is true, best way to stay warm, put a hat on. Okay, so again, some technologies out there This one has the Omni-Heat in it. You really want a hat, especially if it's really windy, something that's going to block the wind. Make sure you've got something that's going to come over your ears too, because your ears will get extremely cold as well. Okay, so just little tidbits on clothing there. Layer up, keep your extremities covered up, keep your feet dry, and typically you'll have a great time outdoors in the winter. Now let's move over and talk a little bit about gear. All right, so biggest thing about gear is sleeping. Okay, so you're not around the fire anymore, so now your body has to generate and maintain its own heat. Okay, so we've got here a mummy bag. Okay, so they call it a mummy bag. It's got a head on it. It fits around you and it's tight fitting. Okay, so a mummy bag, the reason they're popular, especially in cold weather, is it's less space to heat up. So your body is generating its own heat. The bag's job is to trap that heat and keep it in the bag as long as it can. Okay, so if you've got less space in the bag or less room, that's less area that your body has to heat up to stay warm. A couple things there, you can do a synthetic bag, or you can do down. This one happens to be down. The only knock to down over the last few years, once down gets wet, it loses its ability to keep you warm, but they've developed what's called dry down. So they really brought down into, I guess, the 21st century now. So, so bags are very important, but a bag is only as good as what's under it. When it's really cold outside, of course, the ground is cold. So you really need a layer between you and the ground. The problem with the bag, if you just have a bag, when you lay on it, it compresses the down or the synthetic fibers, so therefore it loses its thermal properties. So you need to pair it with a ground pad. So this is one that has foam in it. It's self-inflating. You'll have to blow it up a little bit. So something like that will definitely keep you warmer underside. And all of these are going to have an R factor. So look at the R factor. The higher the R factor, the warmer it is. Okay, so several different ways you can go about this, but make sure you've got a ground pad. Let's talk a little bit about shelters now. Of course, you can do a regular tent. Most of the tents in this area are going to be what we call 3-season tents. The reason that they're not 4-season is they're not rated for snow. So you're not going to have, you know, if you go out and it snows 12 inches that night, most 3-season tents are not going to stand up to that. They're potentially are going to collapse. But you can use a 3-season tent, take it out, but as long as you know it's not going to snow, you'll be fine. There are different properties with a 3-season, 4-season tent. The biggest things are the size of the poles, the material it's made out of. 4-season tent's also going to be a heavier tent. You can also use a hammock. So hammocks are a great alternative because now you're not on the ground. So everybody knows what a hammock looks like. But the issue comes when it's cold and you're in a hammock, it acts like a bridge. So now all that cold air circulates under you. So if you're going to use a hammock while you're doing cold weather camping, you're going to need what's called an underquilt. Basically, it's a quilt that hangs under the hammock so that it protects the backside of the hammock from the cold air that's circulating around. All right. So gear-wise, shelter-wise, that's probably the biggest things that you need to know about how to stay warm in the wintertime. And I said I would offer a couple little tips here at the end. When you're cold weather camping, the biggest thing you want to make sure that you always have, especially that night, is a fire. Okay, so lighters are great, but you would hate to be out, be in a cold weather condition, and your lighter, for whatever reason, doesn't work. So I would recommend you do some kind of flint. Okay, so always have a backup. Summertime, if you don't have a fire, it's fine. You're going to sweat around it anyway. Wintertime, it can make for a miserable long night. So always make sure you have a backup. So some type of flint is great. The other thing too is if you're using a water filter, and here's the filter cartridge, and it's going to be below freezing that night, make sure you put the filter in the sleeping bag with you. It's also a good idea if you've got a canteen full of water or something like that, put it in the sleeping bag with you. The reason is if it freezes at night, it potentially will bust the filter or your canteen, and all of a sudden you don't have anything to filter water or drink out of. So just a couple little tidbits. You can always stuff them all the way down at the bottom of the pack or bottom of the sleeping bag. So as you sleep, your body has that heat generated. It will keep it from freezing. All right, guys, that's a few tips for cold weather camping, and hope you guys hit the woods.